Hello, and welcome to an episode of Todd Talk. When Todd talks, people listen. Puny Todd. Hopefully. Now, you might have noticed that there is something different in my background. I kind of moved. And as you can see, the place is it's pretty white, so I'm going to do my best to keep the camera from not, making it seem like I'm some kind of radiant being. I am not. But today, we're going to have a lot of fun, because today we're talking about the death battle that the Death Battle crew has been asking for a while and has been, praising the exploits of ever since the Tournament of Champions. It is Hulk versus Godzilla. This is going to get weird. So, let us start with Hulk, which actually, ironically, I've already talked about 2 different times. Go figure. So, I'll still do my best to convey who he is without getting all over into the things you all pretty much know, because it's really about what can he do against the King of the Monsters. So, obviously, we have to talk about his origin, which is Bruce Banner, a young prodigy genius who was beaten mercilessly by his father. Whoosh! Yeah. 9 feet. Boom. I love that Boomstick just is like, wow, he always reacts to that one. I was like, wow, that's some distance. That's not what we should be focusing on, Boomstick. Anyway, but yes, he was abused by his father because his father, Brian Banner, was a scientist himself, and he worked on radiation, and he thought that Bruce was somehow a mutant, which is not entirely inaccurate, because of his own works. So between that and the fact that Bruce's mother, Rebecca, absolutely adored Bruce, he was jealous and mean and just, tried to kill him one day. It didn't take. And then he killed his mother, which did take, sent Brian into arrest, and Bruce heavily traumatized. Yeah, that's an understatement. Now, this is where I want to preface some things, because obviously comics and Marvel in general is infamous for the retcons, for the changes to the lore, and given how long Bruce Banner / the Hulk has been around, there's been numerous changes and adjustments to his past history, including the fact that he's apparently best friends with Tony Stark because they both went to Oxford together. How convenient. Or the fact that he accidentally killed his father later in life and then was so traumatized by it, he actually changed his own memories to make it think that he was killed by muggers instead, because he didn't want to deal with it right before going to the radiation test that would turn him into the Hulk. Comics, everybody. Yeah. So, regardless of that, eventually, Bruce's genius did show, but he also had weird personality quirks, including accidentally getting... I should probably back that one up. He developed an imaginary friend who would eventually become the Hulk, but this imaginary friend was much more aggressive than Bruce. And so one day he's like, you should just go plant a bomb at your school and just blow them up for, all the stuff that they've done to you. And Bruce is like, yeah, okay. Trauma. He eventually stopped it, but got caught trying to stop it, and so he got beaten up and was even more traumatized. So yeah, that happened. But as he grew up, he eventually tried to become a philanthropist, actually, and do good in the world, but you can't make money off of doing good. So he had to join the U.S. Army, and that's where he met Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who had a daughter named Betsy. And he got Bruce to work with the government to make the gamma bomb, their next evolution in bomb technology, because we don't have enough bombs, clearly. And little did Ross and Bruce know that a Soviet spy, which shows you the time period, had infiltrated the group, and when Rick Jones, who later became a good friend to Bruce and the Hulk, accidentally wandered into the test site, Bruce went to go save him, and the Soviet spy didn't stop the countdown for the bomb. Bomb goes boom, And Banner dies at the end. Okay, not really. He did die, but because of the gamma that went into his systems, he became the Incredible Hulk. Now, once again, because of Marvel retcons and changes, the Hulk has evolved heavily over the years, almost to an insane degree. Not unlike his powers and abilities himself. For example, the original Hulk was actually gray, and kind of like a werewolf transformation, only happened at night. But Marvel's like, that's probably a little restricting, so they turned him green for whatever reason, and they made it, no, he can transform anytime he's angry or excited. Not even a little excited? I like The Incredible Hulk. I did. I thought that was a fun movie. Poor Edward Norton. But ever since then, the Hulk, as he became known, was a constant presence, not just in the Marvel universe, but the Marvel multiverse, to the extent that lots of things honestly revolve around him. Let me put it that way. The Avengers formed because Loki controlled the Hulk, and the other Avengers couldn't take on the Hulk on their own, so they came together to fight him, and then when Hulk broke free of the mind control, they went and beat the crap out of Loki. Hence, the Avengers are formed. There was also the World War Hulk event, which I'll get to a little bit later, which was all about how Hulk did one thing. They did one thing to Hulk, then Hulk came back, and technically Civil War II was partially started because of the death of Hulk. The Immortal Hulk had a whole lot of things going on, and then even right now in the Imperial comic line that's being done by Jonathan Hickman. Part of that was started because of one of Hulk's kids being killed. So a lot of things happen revolve around the Hulk because he is this truly uncontrollable, unstoppable entity, which has been proven time and time again. Now, true to Marvel Comics nature, the Hulk had a certain level of strength to start. He wasn't meant to be this, my power is infinite or maximum. I still think Broly beats Hulk. Fight me! But as time went on, they started to expand the character and what really made the Hulk and what made Bruce. Things really started to change. Now, the least of which was the personas of Hulk/Banner, because as we would learn, it wasn't so simple that he had a alternate personality in the Hulk. He had numerous personalities that would come out over the span of the character's existence. And that is, even talk about his family and friends. Some of whom became versions of the Hulk, like Rick Jones or Amadeus Cho. That's a whole nother can of worms. Even Betsy became a version of she became the Red She-Hulk. So, there you go. Not to be confused with She-Hulk. That's his cousin. Totally different. But with the multiple personalities, they take on different forms and styles and powers based on not just Bruce's mentality, but the personas that Bruce assigned to them. For example, the one that we know the most is the Savage Hulk, but it's also known as the Child Hulk because it's a raging toddler. Let's just be honest here. It's the rage that Bruce had as a child personified. That's why he doesn't talk much. He's Hulk smash and all that. That's the Child Hulk. Then there's Joe Fixit, who's apparently the teenager of the group. Yeah, I'm not getting into that one. He was a bouncer in Las Vegas for a crime syndicate and apparently has Riz. Comics. Yeah. Then there's, of course, Professor Hulk, which is more about the brains. It's also known as Merged Hulk because it was a merging of the three main personalities, Bruce, Joe Fixit, and Savage Hulk. Then there's the Green Scar. I'll get to him. There's Devil Hulk, which really came out during the Immortal Hulk era, which was the personification of Bruce needing a father figure. Why he wanted his father to be a devil. Just roll with it. But his Devil Hulk's abilities go far beyond many of the other Hulks because he actually has some certain kinds of I want to say precognition, but like knowing what to do and knowing where to go and actually steering Bruce at times to get what he needs. It, because he's a father looking out for his son, right? So roll with it. Then there's other ones that they just kept going. They kept developing it, including ones that have been developed rather recently. And I can't say for certain that they'll be included in the death battle, not unlike what happened with Miles with the vibranium suit and certain other things, because these are really recent personalities, including the Fractured Sun and the Titan. So it just keeps going because that's how broken Banner's personality is, as weird as that is to say. We already knew he's broken, but do you know how broken he is? He's really that broken. And because of that, the Marvel community as a whole not just fears the Hulk, they don't want him around. Okay? Like, legit. Remember World War Hulk? That happened because after the Hulk literally saved the planet, after doing something for S.H.I.E.L.D., the Illuminati, which was at the time Black Bolt, Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Charles Xavier, there's a few others, Hank Pym, basically the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, they came together and said, look, we have an opportunity to get the Hulk freaking out of here. Let's do it. So they sent him off to a planet. He was on a ship at the time. They took the ship to a planet that was supposed to be without life. Well, naturally, something went horribly wrong. And he got navigated to Sakaar, where it was a gladiator planet. And the Hulk became a gladiator, became a revolutionary, became a king. And that's where he would have meet a wife. He would have a wife and have a son named Sakaar after the planet that he was born on. And that's another thing. That MCU version was terrible. Like, why? But he was fine living on the planet. He was a king. He was a warlord. He was happy. He was good. He was good. And then a ship blew up. He thought it was the Illuminati. And so he's just like, he goes back to Earth and pretty much conquers New York City, puts the Avengers in their own gladiator ring to fight it out. And it was only after certain other events happened to reveal that it wasn't the Illuminati who blew up the ship and killed his queen and so on and so forth that he willingly let go. And then the Sentry came in and he fought the Sentry to a standstill, to where they both powered down. And then Bruce Banner knocked out Bob, that boy, right. And no, I haven't seen Thunderbolts, don't ask. So that was the Green Scar version of the Hulk. This is massively powerful and intelligent warlord. And then that still wasn't the end, because then he became the World Breaker, which, as the name states, and as we saw with Hulk Doomsday and Hulk Broly, he was capable of destroying worlds just from doing clashes upon it. And he's proven that multiple times. And yet that's still not the end, because with the Immortal Hulk arc, we got the arrival of the Green Door, which, as many of you likely know because of Hulk Broly, Gamma, the radiation that allowed Bruce to come back, comes from hell. Specifically, it comes from the below space, which is the lowest point in the Marvel universe, multiverse, what do you want to say. And it is the energy of the one below all, the greatest evil in Marvel, the exact opposite of the one above all, who's the creator of everything. So basically, any being that was imbued with Gamma becomes a Gamma mutate. I am bare bonesing this for you. And so long as they are willing, they can go through the Green Door and come back. This does not just apply to Hulk, in Bruce Banner, I gotta make that clear. This applies to any Gamma mutate. Alright, Rick Jones, Doc Samson, Betsy Ross. I think even Thaddeus came through it at one point. The Leader used it at one point because of his own infusion with Gamma. It broke him. Okay? It broke him. And so the question is, can you even kill Hulk? Not technically. Even the official Marvel Wiki said that while certain elements of the Green Door, including whether the Green Door even works anymore, because recent arcs apparently shut it down, it's complicated. But permanently, you apparently cannot, which they addressed in Hulk Broly. It's not about putting him down for good. It's just putting him down for long enough to claim a death battle victory. Like in the case of Maestro, a future evil version of Hulk, he took him like decades for him to regenerate. And then other times in the Immortal Hulk arc, he could only regenerate it. He only regenerated at 9, and it took him like a while to reform the body. And other times it took months. You know, it's a bit. It's about the writing. It's about what the writers decide when Hulk comes back. I mean, isn't that comics as a whole? So, can you kill Hulk? Technically, yes, but not permanently, or at least not in a way that has been addressed so far. You might remember the infamous arrow that pierced Bruce Banner's skull from Hawkeye via an arrow that Bruce himself created. Didn't take it. He came back, but most specifically, the Hulk came back. Bruce is willing to die. The Hulk isn't. Every time that he goes to the Green Door, it's always the Hulk bringing Bruce back, not the other way around. So, and that led to new versions of the Hulk, which brings us to really recent comics, which was the Fractured Sun and the Titan. The Fractured Sun is arguably the most powerful Hulk that's currently in the comics, arguably. And if you remember the preview where the Hulk shattered the chain that was trapping Eternity and even Galactus couldn't break, that was the Fractured Sun. That's how powerful he is. And then there's the Titan, which is basically, just saying it, it's the Godzilla of the personas. It's like the darkest, most brutal, insane persona that Bruce has, and he needed a lot of, it was brought on by a demon comics, and it's so powerful that even Bruce fears it. Bruce fears it more than anything, and even when Doctor Strange and a whole bunch of other people helped him suppress it, it's still there. So, another thing for us to fear. And considering that the Hulk can go up against Thor, Odin, the Phoenix, pretty much all the Avengers all at once, you're going to have to be incredibly powerful to take him down. But can you? We'll find out. Broly would still win. Doomsday would still win. I mean, if we're being completely honest here, there's nothing to say that Doomsday wouldn't still win because of all the resistances he already had. The question has always been about Broly. I still think Broly wins. All right, now we are 17 minutes in. Sorry, I had to have my camera elevated. 17 minutes in. So now we go to Godzilla. So this is arguably even wilder than Hulk, which is saying something entirely. Godzilla, which one do we even talk about? The initial Godzilla. Yeah. The initial Godzilla, made by Toho and Towa and all of them, was originally just a being that was either awakened or created, depending on how you want to interpret it, by the nuclear bomb tests that were going on in the Pacific Ocean, Bikini Atoll and such. Don't know SpongeBob references, don't you dare. I was worried they were going to do that. But it woke this being up, and this giant kaiju was not happy about being woken up like that. So he went on to terrorize Japan for a long time. And symbolically, the message, as noted by the text from his creator, was that he was, the harbinger of the apocalypse. He is the sacred beast of the end. He is the thing you're supposed to fear because we made him. Pretty much every version of Godzilla, outside of a few, it was just a regular being that was mutated by radiation or adapted to resist the radiation that it was dealing with in its home, and then it came to life, came to the surface, and the rest was literally history that it wrote. But the problem with such stories is that not only is it open to interpretation, and Godzilla has had numerous thematic interpretations and storylines over the years, but when you have a monster like that and it looks so dang cool and it has the most iconic roar of all time, I'm not even going to try to do it, but you know the sound. Not everybody wants it to be a bad guy. So the question became, is Godzilla a bad guy? And for certain interpretations, he is. In certain interpretations, he's not. In certain interpretations, he's a straight up superhero and has teamed with everybody from Ultraman to the Avengers to the Justice League. I will get to that. I promise you, I will get to that. And in the MonsterVerse, the American version of Godzilla we've had over the last, it was 2014, so it's 11 years. He is considered a literal extension of nature itself. The title King of the Monsters in the MonsterVerse isn't just a title, it's a literal embodiment of who he is. He's the top dog. And because of that, and because of his natural control, it's loose, but control of the other Titans, he can affect the world as we know it simply by being there and ensuring that the other Titans, including King Kong, stay in their effing lane. That's just who Godzilla is. And yet other times, like say Godzilla -1, great movie. He's this force of nature that, he's going to take you out because he can. And he will, because he's that darn powerful. Now, not unlike the Hulk, Godzilla's powers have evolved over the years, as has his size. When they were making that line about, he's 165 feet tall, minimum, they weren't joking. Look at the wiki, like the main actual Wikipedia wiki, and you'll see that Godzilla's size has changed wildly depending on who's making him, which version of Godzilla, and what competition is going on between the American and Japanese filmmakers at the time. No joke. Like, the 165 was actually a more recent version of Godzilla, but in other versions that also came out more recently, they shot him up to over 100 meters tall. They shot him, which is 300 feet. They shot him over almost to 1,000 feet tall. And even in the American version for the MonsterVerse, they increased his size over the movies so that he would have even more presence. The one who did the 2014 version said we needed him to be big enough to be seen around the entire city, but not big enough to be obscured. So, like, it's all about interpretation, again, and how big you want this giant kaiju to be. Then there is, of course, his atomic breath, the infamous atomic breath, the glorious atomic breath, or as I would call it, whatever my breath is after I eat onions. I regret nothing about that joke. So, the atomic breath is an incredibly focused burst of atomic energy or nuclear energy, and it has the power to just destroy everything. Reach over 1,100 miles, as the preview talked about. In Godzilla -1 arguably had the best version of it in terms of like just the visual impact. It launched the beam, and then you watch the city get wiped out or things get flown just from the pressure wave, not even the blast, from the pressure wave of it all. It was insane. Such a great movie. But like everything, it got more powerful. Remember the line about observing the pterodactyl life force? That was a reference to the original Godzilla Gamera battle, where he's like, after absorbing a giant pterodactyl soul, he learned the red spiral ray, which increased his power output. In the MonsterVerse, Godzilla actually underwent a training arc in Godzilla vs. Kong to gain more power so he could fight Kong and Mechagodzilla, as we would find out. And then in Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire, he fought I can't remember the beings. Was it Tiamat? I think it was Tiamat. He fought a serpent kaiju who was at the North Pole that had an incredible amount of radiation, like radiation that rivaled the sun, and Godzilla beat it, absorbed that energy into him, and that's when he became, the pink version that was going to be powerful enough to defeat the other kaiju that would come from Hollow Earth. So, and that's still not even touching the madness that is the other Godzilla forms. Sorry, I had to look at the clock. Yeah, let's just get into it. Godzilla has had many forms over the years. Some of them have been great. Some of them have been the 1998 version from Hollywood, which was so bad that Toho bought the rights to that version of Godzilla, had it go up against the real Godzilla, and then wiped it from existence, never to be seen again. Thank God. There's also Shin Godzilla, which is a special version of Godzilla, not just because of its, let's call it animations. If you ever watch Devil Artemis with his with the Cellverse, the Shin Godzilla shows up quite a bit, and yeah, it's a monster. But that one actually wasn't specifically altered by the radiation. It adapted itself so that it could resist the radiation that was all around it from the nuclear tests. And that one has, insane regeneration, insane body manipulation, and is just incredibly freaky to look at. There is also the future versions of Godzilla, not to mention Space Godzilla, which I know is a different thing, but it still counts. It has Godzilla in the name. Space Godzilla! But the future version I want to talk about, because this came from Planet Godzilla. Yes, apparently that is a thing. So in this movie, Godzilla came to Earth, or came from, the ocean, whatever, and then single-handedly pretty much wiped out all of humanity, all right? It's specifically stated in the movie that because of humanity's last-ditch effort, they were able to get 5,000 people into space on a quest to find another planet to live on so that they wouldn't have to deal with Godzilla. Long story short, they got into space, couldn't find a planet, and then the ship itself couldn't sustain long-term travel anymore, so they used a special warp drive to go back to Earth. One problem. When they got back to Earth, it was 20,000 years later. Godzilla was still alive. And the entire planet had changed to... How do I put this gently? Godzilla's presence over those 20,000 years had adapted the planet to be more like him, including mini Godzillas being created, an entire race of mini Godzillas being made just from the radiation of his presence. There were still humans, but the Godzilla was still king, and even a interdimensional form of King Ghidorah, don't get me started, was not enough to defeat that version of Godzilla. This is stupid. Oh, then the humans were like, okay, you know what? We can't get revenge on Godzilla because we're perpetuating the cycle of violence. So they basically destroy this one thing that could have technically killed Godzilla, and they're just like, we're just going to try and live alongside him. So yeah, Godzilla's basically immortal. Multiple versions actually back that up, and their abilities, the 27 plus different versions of Godzilla, have various levels of durability, power output, flight, energy projection beyond just the atomic breath, as you saw in the preview video today, and more. And then, I know you've been waiting, there's Godzilla Ultima. Yeah. And yes, it has already been basically confirmed we are getting Godzilla Ultima based on the small teaser preview that had the red dust coming in with soon. Yeah, it's this is happening. So, Godzilla Ultima, or just Ultima, was from a anime series called Godzilla Singularity Point, Singular Point. Yeah, Singularity Point. This version of Godzilla is far beyond anything of the other Godzillas have done, and that's saying something given that 20,000-year-old Godzilla I just told you about, that basically got a planet to adapt to him. Boy. This version of Godzilla is from another dimension and somehow enters our world. And when it does, much like, let's say a Pokemon, I think that's a great way of putting it. Much like a Pokemon, this version of Godzilla had to evolve. It had to adapt to the world that it now found itself in. So it went under 4 different transformations, and each one had its own different looks, abilities, regeneration feats, and so on. And eventually it became Godzilla Ultima. And even that form was still evolving. This was still the peak form, but think of it like, growing into your own skin, that kind of thing. Godzilla Ultima was so boss that it took an incredibly complicated circumstance just to get rid of it. I read the wiki and I still don't understand what exactly it did. It just said it made Godzilla disappear. But its power output was so great that even after getting injured, it instantly regenerated. It was able to just destroy whole buildings in like less than a few seconds, like not even a few seconds, like gone. It one-shot numerous kaiju that came to it, including ones that actually were serving it technically. I didn't understand that part personally. And it kept evolving. It kept growing. Like, it was specifically stated in the wiki that if it reached a certain point, it was going to be beyond anything that... It was an existential threat. Its presence was threatening the universe. And I actually took a screenshot of its atomic breath because it had a very unique thing to say about it. So, here we go. So, in this version, Godzilla Ultima, its atomic breath is not actually atomic in nature, but rather a CTC, a closed time-like curve, molecular laser, which converges and strengthens multiple beams from the future. What? Uh-huh. If you want me to explain that, good luck with that. Like, seriously, good luck with that. Best I can tell, that this is basically saying that every time Ultima fires a beam, it's not just firing a beam, it's firing a beam from multiple points in time, and kind of like a cascade effect, it grows stronger through the distance it goes. That's best I can tell. I will tell you, though, that the Ultima wiki that I found, which is not easy to find, actually, I had to go do some digging for this one. It listed its feats and powers as being multiversal in nature, including having nigh omnipotence, nigh omnipresence, and yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. So, how do you kill Godzilla? Well, that's actually an irony because Godzilla has been killed multiple times in the various movies and shows and such. And oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the comics. So yeah, there has been recent Godzilla versus Marvel and DC comics. Godzilla's been everywhere. Have you not seen all the crossovers that's been announced recently? Like, he's going up against Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soon or whatever. Okay, in the first DC crossover, and it was specifically the MonsterVerse version, so the American recent version of Godzilla and Kong. They were transported to the main timeline by the Legion of Doom, and Godzilla was powerful enough to make Superman go comatose. He hit him with the atomic breath that was so powerful it made Superman go comatose. Godzilla killed certain Justice League members, including Atom Smasher, who was not weak at all. And he was able to fight off, Shazam, Hawkgirl, Wonder Woman, fight off a Kraken underwater, and so on and so forth. But and that's not even the strongest version of Godzilla. And now, like right now, he's fighting off Marvel. He apparently fought the Hulk in this, and even the writers said, like, we're taking like the standard version of Godzilla and putting him up against Marvel, and he's winning. So yeah, there's that. But Godzilla has been killed. One of the most famous ones was the death by Destroya. Great name. And they had a climatic, cataclysmic, like near world-ending battle that resulted in them getting so much radiation within them that they threatened the Tokyo and beyond just by dying. And then, famously, or infamously, when Godzilla did die after finally defeating Destroya, the radiation that poured out of him was absorbed by his son, who then literally evolved into the next Godzilla, ready to take his dad's place. Happy ending! So, yeah. it is incredibly difficult to defeat Godzilla. And again, with Ultima, I don't even know how they technically defeat it. I think they just like kind of transported him away. It was not implied that he actually died. And there are some versions of Godzilla, and including from a wiki I read, that from the main Wikipedia article I read, that said that there is an organ within one of the Godzillas that actually makes him invulnerable to harm until the organ itself has to recycle, like I guess like recharge, I guess. So yeah, good luck with that. So yeah, there's a reason he's the king of the monsters. Hail to the king, baby. All right, so we are 35 minutes. It's worth it. 35 minutes into this. Who wins between Hulk and Godzilla? At first, this could easily seem like, oh, Hulk wins because it's Hulk. Multiversal scaling. Broken those bonds that or that even Galactus couldn't face, etc., etc. The problem here is that Godzilla is actually uniquely tailored to potentially defeat the Hulk. There were cases where Hulk getting drained of his gamma radiation could depower him and thus kill him. That has since been rectified, but it's still an option per se. The green door question, I'm going to say like he's at peak, so he's going to have the green door option. So as they noted in Hulk Broly, which I still say is right, nothing short of total annihilation will keep Hulk down long enough for this fight to reasonably be declared a victory for Godzilla. Godzilla can do that. All right, between his various atomic breaths, including Ultima with his red dust manipulation, which I didn't even get into. That's a whole entirely another thing. Just didn't have the time. Sorry. But between his atomic breath, the CTC thing, again, time manipulation, for lack of a better, time manipulating laser, and certain other things, he can overpower. A Hulk. And another thing here is that while Hulk can absorb gamma radiation to insane levels, like there was actually plot points about using the Hulk's ability to channel and even project radiation at certain points to power certain structures and cities and such. He can't absorb all radiation. And that might sound odd, but like it's specific to gamma, which makes sense. He's powered by the one below all. There was one character that could actually defeat Hulk by actually bombarding him with X-rays, of all things. Who knew? It backfired, obviously, because comics. But atomic energy is technically different. Not to mention the energy of something like Ultima's, which is a CTC, and not radiation at all. It's a molecular laser, which would definitely do damage. And Godzilla can absorb radiation too. In fact, it specifically stated that he can absorb radiation to heal. He has absorbed radiation to power up, and so Hulk bombarding him with gamma would just make him stronger. Not to mention, in Ultima's form, he's basically a god from another dimension that keeps getting stronger and more powerful the more he's in our dimension. So, as hilarious as it is, and as great as this battle I think will be, I think Godzilla's got this, especially with Ultima form. And they confirmed in the preview that across the 27 versions they're going to do the main versions. And now you're talking about the one where he fought Hatsune Miku. What? And that he had atomic breath that could destroy dimensions, just like Hulk could punch through dimensions. Their scaling is actually incredibly similar in various ways. So, despite comic scaling, I'm going to take monster scaling in this one, and I am picking Godzilla. And with that, I'm ending this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win between Hulk and Godzilla? And just how epic do you think this battle is going to be? I have full faith in Devil Artemis, his crew, and even Luis is got in on this one to help make sure it stood up to the expectations of both the Death Battle fans and the Death Battle team. So let me know in the comments below. So, I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I know you were listening. And I'll see you around.